couple of questions with that. What do you think the Eric of, say, 20 years ago would be saying of the Eric now?
Wow. No, that's the answer.
Yep, I gathered
Wow.
that. And the Eric
I
now?
don't know who I was before.
That's why I asked the question.
I know I was different.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I didn't totally lose that person,
Mm-hmm.
because if you ever want to find out who you were before, spend the holidays with your family at a dinner table. So I know I didn't lose it. But I also know that I'm functioning, for the most part, as someone else. I have a different center. I have an awareness. I have answers to questions that I don't know where they came from, because they're nothing that I've read or studied. But I know that they're answers. Somehow, I don't know, people tell me that when you ask me questions, when they ask me questions, they'll watch me and my eyes kind of go down like this for a minute, and then I come back up. I know somehow I go somewhere and I find them. I don't know how I access this. Some people call it channeling. I don't know. What is someone who is psychic or intuitive? We all pick up our information from the field. Someone we considered psychic or intuitive probably just is a little more sensitive. Here's a little more down here, a little more up there.
It's our natural state, though, isn't it?
It
Really?
is. That's the evolution.
Yeah.
That's part of what happens. The healing is the disguise that the reconnection comes in. It's the disguise. You have Mrs. Fields' cookies down here? We've got this. Okay. So
We
you
do,
know.
don't we? Yeah, yeah.
So you know, if you walk by Mrs. Fields, you smell the cookies, because they keep the door cracked open. They have a fan blowing it out, and the scent comes and pulls you into the store, and then you find other things too.
Yeah.
The healings were the Mrs. Fields cookie scent. People came for the healings, but they received a whole lot more, probably because not as many people would have come in if we held out a shingle that said, "Come get your DNA reconnected here."
Very true. Before this part of the journey you're now on, you were also a very successful chiropractor in Hollywood, weren't you? Because not that I want to assume what some of our viewers may be thinking of this particular program chatting with you, perhaps though for some people they might be sitting there going,
Yeah, well, I did the same thing. I can make that face.
okay, so address that face that someone might be making at the moment.
No, I mean, I was a doctor. Lord knows, I had a nice practice, a nice home, nice cars, the whole thing. I did not need to leave my practice and start waving my hands in the air, flying around from city to city, going, I bet I can fool them in Sydney, you know. And my practice went down. It went down when I was doing this. It scared some patients. You know who it really scared? Some of the patients who lost consciousness and spoke those 6 phrases, because it happened to over 50 patients. Okay. As a matter of fact, I was somewhere, I can't think of this person's name. He was Shirley MacLaine's psychic for the longest time, and he's got a known name. I can't think of it. And I went to hear him speak because I was looking for answers. I didn't realize I had them yet. And so I asked him a question. I said, well, this is what went on. Da-da-da-da-da. And the patients lost consciousness, and da-da-da-da. And they spoke these words. And I said, and it scared some of them. And I saw him turn that way. And he looked way downside of the room where I couldn't look, because he said, you have your hand up over there. And I heard the woman's voice say, I was one of them. And she left the practice. She was frightened. And people would ask me, we have a lot of fear-based teachings in healing, which is just amazes me no end. Someone said to me in the beginning, well, how can you trust his voice? Is it a good voice? I never even thought of a question like that. Someone's speaking to me from a universe somewhere else, and I'm like in awe of it, and another person here is going, well, is it good? I'm going, I don't know. Suddenly I start to wonder, be frightened. I said, I don't know. How do I find out? And they said, ask it. And I'm not that foolish. What do you mean, ask it? That's like going up to the good witch or the bad witch in The Wizard of Oz. You ask the good witch if it's a good witch, and she says yes. You ask the bad witch if it's a good witch, and she lies and says yes. I mean, there's got to be a better way. And so I went, well, the only way I'm going to find an answer to this is to go inside. And what came to me were what I consider the 2 worst case possible scenarios. Worst case scenario A, I die, I go to heaven, show up at the pearly gates. Even Jews, we all show up at the pearly gates. Peter's there, we all know him, we're old friends.
Oh, well, the surname like Pearl, I mean.
There we go.
You got a bit ahead of us.
St. Peter flips through the book, sees this name Eric Pearl, goes, you led a lot of people down a wrong path. you got to go back and live your life over 600 times. I would not be too happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
But worst case scenario B, Peter flips through the books and he goes, Eric Pearl, we gave you an opportunity to make a change that would have ripple effects throughout the universe forever, and you didn't do it because you were afraid. That was the answer I couldn't live with.
Dr. Eric Pearl, it has been a real honour to have you on this program.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you so much for sharing the humour, the wisdom. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have sitting here. You know the website, www.conversationswithrobyn.com. You can go into the on-air, find out the station's times and guests, and also into the recording section, where you'll also find a link to Dr. Eric Pearl. Be with you next time. Take care.